Hi, my name is Reed Silverne. The name of this show is Fed Pride. Reason it's called Fed Pride is because I'm a federal worker and proud of it. Actually, I'm a federal worker rehired, and probably within a limited amount of time, retired again. So basically what you're seeing is live to tape. For me, today is September 12th. For you, you're probably seeing this either on September 14th, on a Sunday, or Tuesday evening on September 16th. So whatever I talk about is going to be incredibly obsolete. And of course, tremendous amounts of things can happen in the meanwhile. I'm going to take the world over here. Let's see, I would spin the world, but I'm unable to because it seems to be off the map. Over here in Texas today, there's a Hurricane Ike is driving toward Houston and Galveston. All kinds of things are happening today, and probably on Sunday or Tuesday, you'll know all about it, and you'll be wondering why I'm talking about that. So what I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to talk about a couple things. First, let's see if I can get rid of my titles. And I can. And I'm going to look away from the screen, and I'm going to bring up a presidential poll and expand on what I was talking about last week. So let's see if I can turn it into a whole thing. I'm going to disappear my face over here, see if I can do that. There we go. And basically, this is not working today because I didn't preset it correctly for some reason. Let's see if I can make it smaller. Probably not. Or maybe I can reposition it on the screen. Let's see if I can do that. All right. Anyway. Right over here is the September 12th map of the electoral map, and some of it is not showing because of the way the screen is. Fortunately, the part that I really want to show is showing. And there's been some changes since the previous week. I'm going to show the previous week right over here. And I'm going to actually see if I can get a better view. So over here is the previous week's electoral map, and I get these electoral maps from RCP, and I'm not sure what that stands for. I think it's Real Coverage of Polls or something like that. And I'll do a better job of giving credit the next week. But basically, there's been some changes since the previous week. Now, this is the September 5th week. You can't see the top. And over here, you see that Virginia, which is almost off the screen, was a toss-up at that time. And Florida was barely in the Republican column. Ohio over here was going to Obama, along with North Dakota, Colorado, and Nevada. And that was the week after the convention. And if you compare it to weeks before that, you'll see that McCain was already coming in back into his set of basically red states. Now let me go to the red state, blue state map over here. This is the electoral map of Bush-Kerry in 2004. I'm going to bring back me. And over here you can see, and you probably can't because I'm in front of it, that the whole center of the country, I'm going to get rid of myself over here, the whole center of the country and the mountain states, a little bit of the Midwest, Ohio and Indiana, and all the southern states are completely red, which means they voted Republican. And the coasts, the Northwest over here, Michigan and the Great Lakes states and the West Coast voted completely blue, and blue is Democratic. So this is basically what they call the red state, blue state dichotomy over here. Florida went for Bush over Kerry. And Ohio was almost a toss-up until the last day and ended up in the Bush column. And this map over here with the Northeast, the Lake states, and the West Coast going Democratic is about 4 to 6 electoral votes separated from this entire area in here. And of course, Alaska went for the Republicans and Hawaii for the Democrats. Now we go to September 5th, and you see over here that the Democrats have made a lot of progress in the Republican states. Virginia is a toss-up. North Carolina and Florida are barely in the Republican column. Nevada, Colorado, and North Dakota are leading toward the Democrats, and New Mexico's gone to the Democrats. And even more so, the most important thing is Ohio is going for Obama as of that particular date. This map, if it was the map, the Electoral College map at election, would be a big win for the Democrats. Now, the Palin factor. Let's go to the next one. This is today's map. And today's map shows that McCain has consolidated support in Florida and Missouri, and the toss-up state of Virginia has gone into the Republican column. So has Ohio and Indiana and New Mexico and South Dakota and Nevada, all of which were pro-Obama. And basically, this map, if this map is the election in November 4th, McCain barely loses by about 7 electoral votes because Iowa has gone for Obama and Colorado's gone for Obama. However, if Colorado goes back to McCain's side, McCain wins, or if he can take back Iowa. So this is basically the situation right now. And McCain, thanks to Palin, I think, has really caught up and gone back to the Bush red state strategy. He's basically brought back almost all of the red states, some of which are in trouble economically. Ohio, Indiana, are Rust Belt states, Virginia. Oddly enough, Colorado, which seems to be still very close. As I said last week, it was about 3 or 4 points apart. Now it's 2 points apart. Colorado is really a toss-up. And now Washington has gone from a dark blue, which means absolutely lock for Obama, to within a couple points. The reason that is because people don't realize it, but Alaska and Washington are part of the same culture area. I don't know how to describe it, but Alaskans always go, when they go to the lower 48, they go straight to Washington. That's where they change planes. And a lot of Washington people have moved to Alaska. Also, the media is similar, and they share some media. So a lot of Alaska people pick up stations out of Washington through cable and so on and so forth. So that is the closest state to Alaska as far as relationship and culture and so on and so forth. So they probably know more about Palin than the rest of the country. They've probably been hearing more about Palin than the rest of the country while Palin was governor, when she was running for governor. And that's why this is over here. So I'm going to go back to the world behind me. So what does this mean, especially as far as the election is concerned? The Palin factor is starting to pay off big time, in my opinion, for McCain. Now, am I an expert in politics? I think I made it very clear last time No, I'm not. By no means am I an expert in politics. And my view is as valid as anybody else's. However, what I'm going to do, just to keep things going and keep it interesting and try to stay as relevant as I can, is to bring up these RCP maps. I was getting another map from a company called Rasmussen, but they took their electoral map and they appear to have buried it so that you have to subscribe, and I'm not going to do that. This RCP website, which is a great website for politics, I think it's Real Complete Politics, or I'm not sure what the C stands for, but I'll know next week to make sure I look that up. And I'll see if I can keep on going from week to week to week. And it really, what they've done is they take tracking polls, 3 or 4, some from the left, some from the right, Zogby, Rasmussen, Gallup polls, and so on and so forth. And they rate them, and then they take kind of an average of the poll for each state, and then they say it's either heavily Republican, slightly Republican, toss-up, slightly Democratic, or heavily Democratic. And the interesting thing about the way things are going, and this was not really the pattern during Clinton. Clinton always picked up a couple southern and border states, probably because he was from Arkansas and they knew him there, and also because he was a relatively conservative Democrat. He wasn't pro-abortion or anti-abortion or anything like that, but basically he was fiscally conservative and he could relate to Southerners and where they are, because people think that Southerners are just down the line conservative, and they are, but what they are, they're more populist than conservative, and that was one of the things that the Clintons could relate to, and they could relate to the Clintons. So Clinton lost a lot of support among those types during the impeachment trial and the sexual scandal and all that. But basically, he could relate to these people. The economy was relatively good during Clinton as well. So what is this showing? I don't know. Really, the red-blue divide was shattering when McCain won the nomination, or at least won the lock on the nomination. Of course, he was nominated at the convention because he is a maverick. He really did cross Bush and Bush's dynasty and Bush's partisans a number of times in the last 8 years. Ran against him in 2000, was basically swift-boated with a whole bunch of rumors and things like that. Including really nasty ones like he was a coward and POW prison and things like that. Things that were really uncalled for. And that's part of, the Karl Rove approach to life. But basically, Clinton had turned some of the red states blue and was able to appeal to them. Gore could not. By the time Gore came up, it was literally even Steven. The only difference between that map that we saw and the Bush-Gore campaign is Florida was a toss-up. Of course, they declared it for Bush after a lot of shenanigans, not allowing a recount, but it was really dead even. And to the point where out of millions of votes, there were a couple hundred apart. And Ohio was kind of a toss-up there. But basically, New Hampshire went for Bush, and New Mexico went for Gore. So, no, I think that New Mexico didn't go for Gore. Let me check this right now. Whoops. Yeah. Here's Bush Gore, and yes, New Mexico did go for Gore, and as I said, New Hampshire went for Bush. By the time we go to 2004, which is Bush and Kerry, Kerry had lost, or or Bush had lost New Hampshire, and McCain is losing New Hampshire right now, but Bush had picked up New Mexico, which is unusual because New Mexico is a majority-minority state, basically has a majority of Latinos and Native Americans, as opposed to a majority of conservative, Republican-oriented whites. So that's the way that went. When you go down by county, you can see that almost all the rural areas in 2004 voted Republican, and even on the West Coast, and that only the urban and suburban areas went for the Democrats. And this is true even over here in the Northeast, although some of the more rural areas actually did go Democratic in the Northeast and Minnesota and places like that. So basically what we've had here is a culture war, I guess you might say, or a split between the rural country, southern type voters and the more urban and more urbane type voters in New York, Boston, the whole Washington metro, and so on and so forth. But ultimately, what you ended up with is it was an almost 50-50 split, as far as popular vote, and a 50-50 split as far as the electoral vote. So I'm going to get off of there. Oh, I don't know what the heck that is. There we go. So that's basically what happened over here. And now we have a situation where McCain, who can pick up some of these independent voters and some of these non-hardcore Republicans, who really hasn't been in the in-group as far as the Republican propagandists and Fox News network and things like that. He did some things that really offended them. Naturally, Bush was very fierce on taking over the judiciary and getting anti-abortion candidates in the lower courts, especially the circuit and appeals court, and basically stopped appointing and filling slots until he could force the Senate to select some super conservatives that he was for. McCain got together with a group of moderate Republicans and moderate Democrats. It was called the Gang of 14, basically broke that logjam and forced out some of the real ideologues from the court in return for having the court actually go out there and select some Republicans, but more moderate Republicans for some court appointments. This very much affected and offended drastically the right wing of the Republican Party, the social conservatives, and so on and so forth. The other thing that McCain did was supported basically what was called, or against him, an amnesty bill. He claims it was an amnesty, where was a path to citizenship for some of the illegal aliens who've been here for many years. That was bitterly contested. Basically, some of the conservatives in the South, even in the Midwest, where jobs are scarce, were very offended by that, and they were against him. So we have a situation where McCain has come back mainly because he's taken Palin. Palin is the governor of Alaska, and Palin combines. She is a beauty. She's a former runner-up as a Miss Alaska. She wears glasses, kind of tone her image down a little bit, but she's a good speaker. And she's very charismatic. And she's really a down-the-line red state politician, Republican politician. So the red state people have felt very comfortable listening to Palin and have really responded to Palin. And some of the people who may have voted Republican, but also may have stayed home, now are enthusiastic and really going onto the Republican side. So really, the only mountain and Midwestern state that Bush had captured in 2004 that's in play is Colorado, and Colorado is within the it's within the margin of error. It's that close. So if he can keep Colorado, the other place he really got that he didn't have before is Iowa. And to his credit, really what made Obama was he camped out in Iowa. He moved his family there for a year. He was there constantly. And the voters of Iowa really, really got to know Obama. And that's why Obama came out of nowhere, surprised Hillary Clinton in the Iowa caucuses, and beat her. And the Iowans have been very, very pro-Obama, or at least more pro-Obama than you'd expect for a farm western state. And that's really the only red state outside of Colorado that's in the Obama column right now, and Colorado is shaky. Basically, Colorado has Colorado Springs, lots of social conservatives. They also have that Denver area, a lot of real super liberals, especially in Boulder, Colorado, and some of the suburbs of Denver that really aren't very. They become more democratic in the last 8 years than they were before. And of course, lots of these states over here, lots of these mountain states, and some of the Midwestern and some of the southern states, or at least the border states, were voting Democratic. Sometimes they vote Republican, sometimes they vote Democratic. And there were switches from one side to the other. But the electoral map seems to have consolidated in 2000, 2004, and now it's again consolidating in 2008, so that the Northwest is very, very staunchly Democratic. The lake states, with the exception of Ohio and Indiana, Indiana is more culturally southern or Midwestern, have been Democratic because that's where the unions are. And the West Coast, basically California, Oregon, and Colorado, not Colorado, but Washington State, have been voting very, 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 very Democratic in presidential elections. Now, why do I make that distinction? I make that distinction because Colorado has a Democratic governor, I believe. We all know that Arizona has a Democratic governor. New Mexico has a Democratic governor. Basically, these states, especially in the mountain areas, have been moderating and have been going more and more Democratic as their demographic map is shifted more toward Latinos and also as their economic basis has shifted from mining and agriculture over to high tech and more highly educated and, let's put it bluntly, yuppie professions. So this is very, very true of Virginia over here, which was for a while a toss-up, and a surprising toss-up, but now has gone over to the McCain side. So really, the electoral map is changing, or is not changing. It is going back to the pattern of 2000, 2004. The question is, can Obama hold on to some of those states that were red states in the past? My name is Reed Silverne. The name of the show is Fed Pride. Reason it's called Fed Pride is because I'm a federal worker. I'm proud of it. I'm now on Sundays and Tuesdays, and I certainly do hope that you watch.